Right now, you are almost certainly not on anyone's menu. No animal is stalking you through the grass, waiting for the right moment to strike. That safety feels normal to us, but for the vast majority of our ancestors' existence, they were prey, not occasionally, constantly. If you ask someone what animal killed the most ancient humans, you usually get the same answers. Lions, tigers, maybe a saber-toothed cat if they've watched a few documentaries. We tend to picture big, dramatic, obvious predators. The fossil record points toward a different reality. The animal responsible for the highest number of deaths in our ancient lineage isn't the biggest animal on the savanna. To find the true primary predator, we have to treat prehistoric fossil sites like a forensic cold case. We need to evaluate the physical evidence and eliminate suspects one by one until we identify the most frequent killer. Our first suspects make an appearance millions of years ago in East Africa. Early hominins needed water, and water meant rivers, which meant crocodiles. Skeletal remains from multiple fossil sites show distinct puncture wounds, evidence of ambushes right at the water's edge. While a very real cause of death, it is limited. The threat was absolute, but strictly geographical. Step away from the riverbank, and the danger disappears entirely. Next are the hyenas. We find their heavy chew marks all over bone assemblages in ancient caves across Africa, often mixed right in with hominin remains. Hunting in packs, hyenas were a much more constant menace. They would target something as small and slow as an early hominin, especially if that individual was young, old, or injured. But neither with these animals was the primary threat. Crocodiles were restricted to rivers. Hyenas mostly worked the fringes, picking off the weak. They weren't the main event. Then there is one of the strangest confirmed predators of all. In 1924, researchers at a site in South Africa uncovered the skull of a young Australopithecus africanus, dating back roughly 2.8 million years. It became known as the town child. For decades, scientists were puzzled by a series of strange scratches and puncture marks found across the skull. Eventually, the pattern was matched to something highly specific, the talons of a large ancient bird of prey. Giant eagles were common in that era, and they had a terrifyingly effective hunting method. They would swoop down, snatch a monkey-sized hominin directly off the ground, carry it into the air, and eat it. The town child skull is a clear signature of avian predation. But giant eagles were specialized hunters that primarily targeted the very young and small. The title of top killer still remained unclaimed. This brings us to the obvious suspects. Big cats, like ancient lions and saber-toothed species, definitely killed hominins, but they rarely leave behind precise evidence for us to find. Because lions often consume or scatter the entire body of their prey, they leave behind no traceable fossil record for scientists to identify with certainty. The definitive evidence didn't surface until the 1970s. A paleontologist named Bob Brain was examining fossils from Swartkrans Cave in South Africa when he came across a hominin skull fragment catalogued as SK54. At the back of the head were two distinct puncture marks. When Brain analyzed the spacing and shape, they perfectly matched the lower canine teeth of an ancient leopard. Leopards are ambush hunters that strike in a single decisive burst, the perfect methodology to exploit a slow, unarmed, tree-dwelling primate. They would clamp onto the skull and drag the body into private trees or caves to eat. This wasn't an isolated incident. Recent AI-assisted bite mark analysis on fossils from multiple African sites confirms this pattern showed up again and again across millions of years. For decades, the assumption was that early humans were dominant hunters. SK54 suggested the opposite. Our ancestors were the constant, reliable prey of the stealthy leopard. To understand how this changed, we have to look at a different kind of evidence. We can observe modern hunter-gatherer societies to see how humans fare in similar environments today. Anthropologists have tracked the lives of communities like the Hadza in Tanzania and the Hiwi in Venezuela. Their daily routines closely resemble how humans lived for most of history, and they share their environment with jaguars and anacondas. Recording causes of death across these populations, researchers found that predator attacks are virtually non-existent. In these societies, wild animals fade into the background. The primary killers are now invisible diseases, causing up to 85% of mortality, and violence from other humans. The answer to what killed us depends entirely on which era you look at. Millions of years ago, it was the jaws of the leopard. In more recent history, our greatest threats became unseen pathogens and ourselves. How did we bridge that gap? How did a small, slow primate hiding in the trees become the untouchable species walking openly on the ground? We developed 3 vital layers of protection. Mastery of fire kept predators at bay, weapons made hominins dangerous instead of defenseless, and group living provided more eyes to watch the dark. These adaptations slowly neutralized the leopard. The cat that terrorized our lineage for millions of years was reduced to just another animal in the landscape. The next time you picture our ancestors, don't imagine a roaring lion leaping out of the grass. Instead, picture a silent shape waiting in the branches above the trail, a reminder of exactly how far humanity had to climb to secure the safety we take for granted today.